It's been the greatest regular season in the history of the Houston Astros, 102 victories. With the San Diego Padres, they can say the same thing. They won 98 games. It's game one of the National League Division Series, and a packed house has gathered in the Astrodome. Kevin Brown, a Cy Young candidate, again with impeccable credentials, 18-7 among the leaders in ERA. But he'll be matched up against a formidable foe, the big unit, Randy Johnson. And indoors, he was unbeaten with the Astros, giving up only 2 runs here. Hello, everyone. I'm John Miller, and welcome to the first game of the National League Division Series. And it's quite a matchup. 2 of the top ball clubs in all of baseball. Now, with Randy Johnson out there, the Astros have visions of that dominating performance he turned in the 1995 postseason, starting with that one-game tiebreaker at the Kingdome. A memorable day against the Angels. He was almost untouchable, sending the Mariners to the postseason for the first time. Then, down 2-0 in the division series, he turned the Yankees away, keeping the Mariners alive. Finally, in the 5th game, incredibly, he came in out of the bullpen in the 9th inning, struck out the side, and eventually in extra innings, Johnson got the win as the Mariners moved on. With me is my partner, Joe Morgan, and Joe Morgan remembers well some of the great postseason series that have been played in this ballpark. 1980, when he was here, one of the all-time greats, the Phillies and the Astros. And Joe, we got the possibility of that kind of a series here, 2 outstanding clubs, but they're coming in from vastly different places because the Padres have been struggling in September.
Well, you're right. They struggled to the finish line. The Astros have been playing well. They continue to play well. I think the Astros have a few more weapons. But when you're talking about Randy Johnson, you're talking about a guy that can just overpower any offense so they can shut down the Padres. But one thing to remember, Kevin Brown, last year he beat the Atlanta Braves twice in the division series, and then he pitched in the World Series. This guy can pitch as well as Randy Johnson on any given day. The only thing I hold against him here is that they're on AstroTurf. A lot of ground balls may go through for base hits.
All right. Brown with that sinker could be hurt on the turf. Now, the Astros last year, they struggled. They got swept by the Atlanta Braves, and the big guys, Bagwell, Biggio, and Bell, didn't do anything at all in that series. Now they're a year older, a year wiser, perhaps.
Well, you're right. I read a quote that Mo Vaughn gave. He said, you know, he wasn't ready for the big stage. He went 0 for 14 when the Cleveland Indians swept the Boston Red Sox a couple of years ago. Last year, the Atlanta Braves swept the Houston Astros. Craig Biggio, Bagwell, none of the guys hit well. This year, Mo Vaughn's already hit 2 home runs. So maybe Bagwell and those guys will follow. I think they're ready for the big stage this time.
All right, and it's not just them this year. It really was last year. Now Moises Alou, who was a World Series hero, and Carl Everett, both of them have had great years here in the Astrodome. Craig Biggio, Ken Caminetti, Tony Gwynn, Moises Alou. The stars are out. Game 1 next. ESPN's coverage of the National League Division Series is brought to you by American Standard Gas Furnaces, built to a higher standard. And by True Value. For knowledgeable advice on all your home improvement projects, come to True Value. Anything to help. It's the Padres and the Astros about ready to begin. From the Astrodome, the Astros have taken the field, and there is Bruce Bochy. He has brought the Padres into the postseason for the 2nd time in 3 years. And as was the case with the Astros last year, who got swept in the division series by Atlanta, Bochy's Padres were swept 2 years ago by the St. Louis Cardinals in the division series. And they feel that they're a much better ball club this year, as do the Astros. Here's the Pepsi batting order for the Padres. Kilvio Veras, he's the igniter at the top of the order at second base. Tony Gwynn, the great veteran, it's hard to believe now, 38 years old in right. Greg Vaughn, a 50 home run man. He got number 50, the final game of the year in Phoenix, and quite a jump this year. Ken Caminetti, the former Astros, at third base hitting cleanup. Jim Leyritz at first in place of Wally Joyner. Steve Findlay, another former Astro, in center field. Carlos Hernandez, the catcher, hitting 7th. Chris Gomez, one of the hottest hitters for the Padres down the stretch, which is not necessarily saying a lot for him. And Kevin Brown is the pitcher, batting 9th. The Padres just did not hit much in September, and they certainly are not hoping, or at least not holding out much hope, of getting well today against this guy, the big unit. These are his overall numbers, but this was the Mariners' lament most of the positive numbers for him occurred after he was traded here.
Well, he's 10-1 with the Astros here in the Astrodome. And the one thing to remember about Randy Johnson, he can be overpowering, but if he's a little erratic and you're patient, you may get some pitches to hit. He gave up 8 base hits in about 6 innings his last time out, so he did not dominate last time out. But he has a great fastball, and that slider is just almost unhittable to a right-hander.
Gilby Alvarez finished the year at 267 with a 373 on base average, and it is ball 1.
I talked to some of the Padre hitters about how they were going to approach batting against Randy Johnson.
1 ball, 1 strike.
And they had a lot of different theories on how they were going to do it. That tells you how good this guy is and how good his pitches are, because there's not one specific way to attack him.
And that is a slider for strike 2.
There are a lot of times when a pitcher has 2 pitchers that are overpowering, you say, I'm going to hit one. I'm going to look for the fastball and hit it, or I'm going to look for the slider. In Randy Johnson's case, most of them say they're just going to try to find a pitch they can hit.
That's a foul out of play. So the count, 1 ball, 2 strikes to Gilby Alvarez. He's the guy they need to keep off base at the top of the order for the Padres. He's their leading base stealer, and he's the guy that they gave a lot of credit to, especially in the first half of the season when they were so hot, as being the man who got them going all the time. They've had a lot of injury problems down the stretch. 2-2 the count to Gilby Alvarez. Tony Gwynn and Greg Vaughn will follow. And there's a guy, Joe, is my candidate for manager of the year in the National League, Larry Dierker. I mean, this is a club had a lot of adversity before the season ever started. Craig Biggio throws Alvarez, and there is ball away.
Well, speaking of defense, that's Craig Biggio making the play at second base. He's won 4 Gold Gloves. I mean, he is a fine second baseman. But Craig had maybe the worst game I've ever seen him have on Sunday here, John. He forgot how many outs there were. He struck out a couple of times, which tells me that he's going to bounce back and have a good game tonight, because I talked to him before the ball game. He was really upset about what happened on Sunday.
Now Tony Gwynn. Ball 1. Gwynn is not one of those left-handed hitters who does not want to be in there against Randy Johnson, which might make you say, wow, this guy is quite a stand-up guy, or it might make you say, this guy's nuts.
Well,
but he looks forward to the challenge. I mean, he's one of the greatest hitters of his time. 16th consecutive year this year, hitting over 300, and he relishes the opportunity to go up against Randy Johnson on the inside corner, and Johnson quickly ahead of him. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
He was 0 for 4 against Johnson in the game that Johnson pitched a 2-0 shutout. There you see the consecutive 300 seasons.
That is strike 3 called, and he reached back for some extra on that one. 97 miles an hour.
Well, the last pitch wasn't really the problem. It was the fact that he was able to throw those 2 fastballs on the inside corner, which keeps Tony Gwynn from going out to get this pitch. Now look, Tony, fastball in, that right there, that pitch, and that one. Those are the pitches that hurt him, not this one. That just finished the job, but the other 2 set it up.
2 down, nobody on, and here is Greg Vaughn, and he is the power of the Padres. Only 2 men finished with more than 20 homers. A check swing for ball 1. It was Ken Caminetti with 29 and Greg Vaughn with 50. He hit almost a third of the team's total of home runs for the year. The slider in for a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, he got 2 hits off Vaughn in that, off of Randy Johnson in that 2-0 game that Randy Johnson pitched against the Padres when he was still with the Seattle Mariners in the interleague play.
I saw them. That's right, in interleague play, and had one of his best games for the Mariners this year. Had 12 strikeouts and no walks in that. 2 down, nobody on. Did he swing? Yes, played umpire Ed Roccarano making the call, and it is 1 ball and 2 strikes. Other than nothing but sliders here.
Well, the Padres said they knew they were in trouble that game because he had given up 7 runs the time before, and they knew that, with a guy like him, things always even out.
1 and 2. Fastball, got him looking. The big unit makes a big statement here in game 1. Now the Astros coming up against Kevin Brown. No score as we go to the last of the first inning at the Astrodome, and For those of you viewing on ESPN2, when the ball game in Cleveland is over with and we switch back to ESPN, the late model stock car race will be seen in its entirety. Stay tuned. Down to Pepsi, Astros batting order. Biggio, second base. Spires at third. Bell in right. Big year for Bell. Bagwell at first. A great stretch run for him. Moises Alou, an MVP candidate, although 38 homers versus 66. Sosa looks pretty strong. Everett in center. Great addition as well. Gutierrez at short. Osmus the catcher. Randy Johnson the pitcher hitting ninth. And on the mound for the Padres, their ace right-hander, Kevin Brown.
Kevin does basically what Randy Johnson does without striking out a lot of people. He throws everything hard. Good sinking fastball, hard slider. He will throw an occasional changeup, but very rarely will he try to get a hitter out with a changeup.
And really, more strikeouts for Brown this year than ever before. I mean, you never think of him as being a strikeout pitcher, but Brown just seems to get tougher and tougher to hit as he gets older. 18-7, and that earned run average just sensational, 2.38. Biggio, and it goes to 2-0. Biggio had another outstanding year, an MVP-like season himself. 325 average, over 400 with his on-base average, 20 homers, 51 doubles, and 50 steals. I mean, name a category. This guy did it big time. There's that sinker. Look at that. 94 miles an hour.
Well, that's the Kevin Brown that they want to see. He threw the first two. He overthrew them. One 96 miles an hour, but they were both high. So he goes back to the sinker and he gets a strike.
Harder is not necessarily better for Kevin Brown. This is a straight fastball, but he was way behind it. Fouling it out of play. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Biggio.
The one thing that we're going to have to watch for today is that, you know, Kevin Brown does throw a sinker, and on AstroTurf, you know, the ball will scoop through the infield. So it matter whether those ground balls that are going to be hit at some of these infielders or wide of where they're playing.
3-2. And Biggio seems like he's forever at 3-2, especially at the start of a game. He'll make a pitcher work. The Astros in this ballpark with the turf, the dome, they always feel like they have the advantage. And there's a sinker pouring down and in under the hands. 3-2 as Biggio fought it off.
That's what makes him so tough against the right-handed hitters. He'll throw the straight fastball over the outside corner. He'll throw the fastball in the middle of the plate. Looks like it's going to be right there for you to hit. Then it sinks in on your hands, as that pitch did. That looked like a good 3-2 pitch for Biggio to hit. All of a sudden, that ball was diving towards his hands.
Back to the screen. Came in with a high hard one that time. So Biggio giving Brown a workout here in the first inning. Now Brown, with the new pitching coach Dave Stewart this year, added another weapon to his arsenal. The split-fingered fastball. A pitch he did not have before. And that made him even tougher than ever. And perhaps is why the strikeout total is so high. A walk for Biggio.
Well, Brown changed his entire motion there. He looked like he tried to drop down to get Biggio on that pitch, and he missed badly. Well, let's take a look at the defense behind Brown. There, you know, Wally Joyner, a very good first baseman, is not going to be in there tonight. He's still having shoulder problems. Jim Layrich, good hitter, but not a good defensive first baseman. So you have to watch and see if that comes back to hurt them, but he is a very good hitter.
And a prime-time hitter, as we learned a couple of years ago in the World Series when he hit that dramatic 3-run homer against Mark Wohlers of Atlanta. Now here's Bill Spires. Strike, and it's 0-1. Biggio, again, 50 stolen bases. And you'd go all the way back to Tris Speaker to find a player who had the combination of more than 50 doubles and 50 steals in a season. So it certainly has not been easy to do. 1912, Speaker, who was there for the opening of Fenway Park in Boston. And it had not been done since until now. The Astros, the highest scoring team in the National League. They scored 874 runs, about 5.5 per game. It's a very potent offense, and they don't come after you just any one way. The Padres have been a little more one-dimensional, especially the second half of the year. Padres have had a hard time scoring without hitting home runs. Strike now to Bill Spires. The power comes up next with Bell, Bagwell, Alou.
And it's not easy to steal a base off of Kevin Brown. He actually comes to the plate pretty quickly.
Biggio studying Brown intently, edging out, front foot on the turf. Double play ball to second. Barris, second one. Gomez back to first. Double play.
And that's what the sinker ball will get you, the ground balls with runners on base. And it's always a matter of whether those ground balls are hit at the infielders if you're Kevin Brown.
Looked like Varus had a little trouble getting a handle on that ball.
Well, he was trying to make sure. He was actually so far away, he wanted to go underhand. That's one of those plays where a lot of second basemen will give you the backhand toss right there, see, but he had to grip it so he can give them the underhand toss. And most shortstops would prefer for you to give them the backhand toss because you can get it there quicker.
4-6-3. And that's Kevin Brown at his best, getting a lot of ground balls. Here's Derek Bell. Strike, and it's 0-1. Derek Bell got off to a great start this year and just put together one of his best seasons. 314 average, 22 homers, 41 doubles, 108 runs batted in. Hung the slider that time, but Bell fouled it back.
Well, the first pitch was registered at 98 miles an hour. That's faster than any pitch that Randy Johnson threw in the first inning. It may not appear to be as fast because Randy Johnson has such a herky-jerky motion that the ball seemed to explode out of his hand. Brown is more of a normal pitcher, and you can see the ball pretty quickly. Kevin. Randy Brown and Kevin Johnson.
You kind of
two basketball players, two NBA players.
You kind of confused your dominant pitchers there for a moment.
Well, that's my NBA background.
Yeah.
Randy Brown and Kevin Johnson.
One dominant pitcher looks just like another one to me. And the seats off to the left. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Jeff Bagwell would be next.
It's amazing to me how right-handers can have any success off of Kevin Brown because, I mean, he'll throw you a straight fastball over the outside corner. He'll throw you a fastball that starts that way and then runs back towards you. So how do you go after the ball that's away from you?
Well, how do you?
That amazes me that they can handle him at all, like that one there.
Got him looking. Strike 3 call. So the tone has been set. 2 great pitchers, no score. The Astrodome in Houston, Texas. Game 1 of the National League Division Series. The Padres nothing, the Astros nothing. As we move to the second inning, between innings here, manager Bruce Bochy of the Padres was out conversing with Ed Rapalano, the home plate umpire. And whatever it was, they seem to have gotten it fixed. Here we go to the second inning from the Astrodome. Ken Caminetti, the cleanup hitter, leading it off for the Padres. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. And we welcome those of you who have been watching the Red Sox and Cleveland from the Jake. Here, Randy Johnson and Kevin Brown matched up, 2 of the premier pitchers in the National League. And both of them had premier first innings. Randy Johnson striking out both Tony Gwynn and Greg Vaughn. And Derek Bell was called out on strikes facing Brown to end the Astros first inning. So we are scoreless as we start the second inning. Ken Caminetti, 29 home runs for the Padres. Slider hit high in the air to right. Derek Bell has room.
Between innings, Bruce Bochy came out and he was talking to Ed Rapalano about the batter's box. They put new dirt in there and it seems to be loose. I don't know what that had to do with those called strikes, but it looks like, you know, that's the problem. And Ed Rapalano went over and talked to the grounds crew, and I think they're going to do something between innings.
Now Jim Leyritz will come up. Leyritz starting in place of Wally Joyner. Joyner's had some shoulder and quadricep muscle problems, but with the big unit on the mound, he might not have played had he been physically the best he'd ever been. Leyritz 276 overall this year. And quickly behind in the count, 0-2.
The thing that's amazing to me so far is the control that Johnson has of both of his pitches.
Slider, base hit to left field. So Jim Leyritz, and that reminds you when he hit the 3-run homer in the World Series against Mark Wohlers, it was a slider. Not as good a one as this one, though.
Well, they like to throw him a lot of sliders because he's a good fastball hitter. That pitch is down, and this is what we're talking about with Kevin Brown. You may find a lot of ground balls finding holes on this AstroTurf because the ball scoots through this infield.
In that ball game at Cleveland, the Boston Red Sox pounded the Cleveland Indians 11-3. So the Red Sox have already captured a big prize in any 5-game series, and that's to win the first game on the road. I mean, they're hoping that at least that they get a split in Cleveland. Well, they're already assured of at least that. So the Indians have a huge must-win facing them at home tomorrow against Boston. Steve Finley, the hitter. One of only 2 lefties in the lineup today for the Padres. And Finley, for the year, hit on only 188 against left-handed pitchers. I mean, and there are left-handers, and then there's Randy Johnson.
You're right. I think Finley's in there more for his defense today, John. They want to make, you know, he's a very good defensive center fielder. And anything you get from him from the offensive side is just a plus.
1-2 the count. Strike 3 called in the outside corner.
I mean, the pitches that he is making, I mean, he is spotting his fastball. He's spotting the slider. I mean, at this point, he is, as they say sometimes, unhittable. I mean, watch this. Right over the outside corner with a fastball. I mean, and you're a left-handed hitter. There's no way you can go out there and get that pitch when he's also pitching you inside with the fastball, and he's throwing you that hard slider.
There's the hard slider. Carlos Hernandez ended his 0-1.
And the point is, none of those pitches are in the middle of the plate.
So the early signals here from Johnson are rather ominous if you're with the Padres. I mean, he's got that kind of stuff right now, the kind of stuff that you fear most.
Well, if you're with the Padres, you kind of look at it like a tennis player looks at it. If another guy is just playing out of his mind right now, all you do is try to stay close and hope that he drops down a notch or two, and that's what they're going to have to do here.
2 strikes to count to Hernandez. And it's fouled on the right field line. Got a 97-mile-an-hour heater and hit it foul. Now, which tennis player were you talking about when you start talking about out of his mind?
Well, if a guy's playing that well against you.
Well, like who? You know, like which guy would we be talking about?
I don't want to name names. But I do know that you have to weather that storm and just hope that the guy drops off or not.
Hope that he's not that crazy.
Yeah.
Not that he's not out of his mind
for the entire game.
2 strikes the count. There, you got me. 2 strikes. The count. Chris Gomez on deck. Johnson, by the way, has thrown 28 pitches, Joe. 22 strikes and 6 balls.
And the strikes are on the corners, not the middle of the plate.
Leyritz at first, 2 down. Well, Hernandez hanging tough, fouled off that slider.
And this is not the Randy Johnson we saw last year against Baltimore in the division series. Mike Mussina beat him twice. I mean, they scored runs off him. He wasn't throwing nearly as good as he is now. But he also, I think last year he had, some problems. His arm was bothering him toward the end of the season. But right now he looks healthy and he is firing.
He was rarely getting the ball past 92, 93 miles an hour. That fastball over the middle, base hit. Well, Carlos Hernandez refused to yield to all of that hard stuff. And finally, he hit safely to center field. 2 on, 2 out.
And that was a good job by Hernandez. I mean, he shortened his swing after he got behind 2 strikes. And he just kind of punches this ball into center field. See, not a long swing. Just shortened his swing. Look at that right there. Real short. That's about as short a swing as you can have right there and expect to hit the ball hard someplace. Good job there by Hernandez.
Now Chris Gomez. A slider for a strike. Gomez finished the year at 267, and in September he was one of the Padres' best hitters. He was struggling most of the season offensively. But since August the 6th, he's hit .341. Derek Bell. That's the inning. So the Padres get a couple of runners, but no more. Bagwell, Alou, and Everett coming up for the Astros. No score. Padres nothing, Astros nothing as we go to the last of the second inning. And they did come out and work on the mound here for Kevin Brown before he came back. The Book of Wayland. Madres, don't let your Padres grow up, or whatever it said. I don't know. Kevin Brown apparently had some complaints about the mound. Madres, don't let your babies grow up to be Padres.
Well, they had put some dirt out there that was loose, and Kevin Brown felt it was too loose. We thought it was the batter's box. I know he had talked to the ground crew, but it's the mound, and you can see that's clay. That's a clay mixture. It's not just regular dirt. That's how you get the firmness. But you also put that kind of clay mixture in the batter's box as well.
So Brown takes his final warm-up, and now the power comes up. Bagwell, Alou, and Everett for the Astros. No score in the game. This series, by the way, immediately convenes into a day off tomorrow, and will resume on Thursday with Game 2, then have the Friday travel day, and Game 3 will not be until Saturday in San Diego, meaning that both Brown and Randy Johnson could have their regular 4 days of rest and come back in Game 4, which is very unusual in a 5-game series. And if one team or the other felt that it was an emergency and wanted Brown or Johnson to come back with 3 days of rest, they could actually come back in Game 3. Jeff Bagwell. The slider misses. 2-0 the count. Now Bagwell, one of the ferocious sluggers of the National League ever since he came over here. Here's the time on Thursday, 4 o'clock Eastern. Ashby and Shane Reynolds will go. But you know, Bagwell, particularly this past September, was at his very best. He hit .420 in September. Foul out of play. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Shane Reynolds, who won 19 games for the Astros in the regular season, will go on Thursday. And Andy Ashby, who really struggled for a few weeks before finally winning his 17th game in his last start, he'll go for the Padres. Struck him out with a high hard one.
Well, Kevin Brown is doing it a little differently than Randy Johnson, but he's getting the job done. This is 97 miles an hour fastball up. And you're always aware that he has that sinker. So you look down and he throws a fastball up. If a guy's a sinker ball pitcher, you have an automatic tendency to look down when he releases the ball because most of his ball is going to be low. Or if you have a guy that's a high fastball pitcher, you have a tendency to look up. Brown, he makes your head bounce up and down with the sinker and the straight fastball.
6th in the league in homers, 6th in the league in RBIs. Moises Alou. Joe, I still think that he should have been the MVP in the World Series last year for Florida. And of course, now he's facing his Florida teammate. They each have a World Series ring from last year when they were teammates. Moises Alou. That's a foul out of play. Moises hit .321 in the World Series, had 3 homers and 9 runs batted in. Now that is a pretty good World Series.
Yes, it is. And also, I guess Livan Hernandez won it. He pitched very well, especially in the League Championship Series, and then he won a couple of games in the World Series.
Oh, Caminetti on the bounce. Got him at first. Wow. That didn't seem possible.
Well, it's unusual to see Caminetti bounce that ball across on the AstroTurf because he has one of the strongest arms of any third baseman. But he's had shoulder problems, and he just said, hey, I got to get over there as quickly as I can. And watch this. This is what I was talking about. Just a matter. A lot of ground balls will start to scoot through these infields on AstroTurf. But look at that. Perfect throw. does a good job of stretching out and helping him. He makes a perfect one-hop throw to first base. Lyerich stretches out, and they get him at first base.
2 down at Carl Everett. Well, Ken Caminiti's got all kinds of injury problems. Seems like he's been hurt ever since he won that MVP 2 years ago.
He was hurt then, too.
He had that rotator cuff that bothered him all that year. He has an extraordinary tolerance to pain. Carl Everett. That one just disappeared up there. 0-2 the count. Everett, along with Alou, two of the huge differences in the Astros lineup this year. Everett has hit 296, 15 homers, 76 batted in. Well, Brown makes short work of him here, and Brown's got 3 strikeouts. So does Randy Johnson. No score after 2 innings. Tony Gwynn drew third. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. And Joe, in the first game of the National League Division Series, we get 2 outstanding ball clubs and a great pitching matchup out here. And each of these pitchers are the kind of pitchers that on a given day they can be unhittable and beat anybody.
Well, both of them seem to have their best stuff tonight, John, and they're also throwing strikes. That's the main thing. They're staying in front of the hitters, and the only way they're going to get in trouble is if they start to fall behind, because both of them have excellent stuff tonight.
Here's Kevin Brown leading it off against the big unit. He takes ball 1. Kevin Brown, not a bad hitter, but Johnson makes him look bad right there. Brown hit .207 this year and led all the Padres pitchers with 10 runs batted in. Leadoff man Kilvio Barris will follow. Well, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Johnson, 35 pitches thrown, 80% of them have been strikes. 2/3 of Brown's pitches have been strikes already. And another strikeout. Number 4 for Randy Johnson. And in the case of Kevin Brown, he made it look ridiculously easy.
Well, Kevin Brown is going to be overmatched against the Randy Johnson. I mean, Randy's throwing well, and pitchers just do not get enough batting practice, especially enough practice against a 90-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yeah, but Kevin Brown's going to be upset about it. You know, I mean, Gentleman's Quarterly feels that you are the angriest man in baseball. But there are a lot of people who feel that Kevin Brown is the angriest man in baseball. Nice article about you, by the way.
Yeah, but he earned his.
Oh, you mean you're not that angry?
No.
I felt bad. I kept thinking, man, why is he so angry? 1 ball to no strikes to Kilvio Barras. In the latest issue of Gentleman's Quarterly, some people like to call it GQ.
I thought that's what it was. I didn't know it was Gentleman's Quarterly. All these years, I just thought of it as GQ.
And maybe this is a whole different article then.
Okay.
Right center, Derek Bell. Number 2 is Barris is retired. Now Tony Gwynn.
I tell you what, last time Tony Gwynn looked like a mortal the way Randy Johnson pitched him. Look at that fastball in. Strike 2 and strike 3. How many times you see Tony Gwynn ever do that? And then Vaughn, he threw him breaking ball, and then a fastball right on the outside corner. I mean, these are 2 good hitters, and there's Gwynn. He geared up for the fastball, and Randy threw him a slider. So, I mean, this is a tough thing for Gwynn, but I tell you what, he will make some adjustments.
1 strike to count. Past the mound, up the middle. Biggio's going to have a tough play. He got him. A couple of years ago, Tony Gwynn beats that out. He's 38 now. He's got some Achilles tendon problems as well. No score. We go to the last of the 3rd. It's a sellout crowd at the Astrodome in Houston. Game 1 of the National League Division Series between the Astros, who won 102 games, and the Padres, who won 98 games. A couple of heavyweights duking it out here. Ricky Gutierrez against Kevin Brown, and there is ball 1.
I talked to Dave Stewart before the ball game, and he said even though Kevin Brown didn't win in his last 4 starts, he said he was throwing great. He said they just were not scoring any runs for him. There's Dave Stewart. Dave said he had the best second half, meaning Kevin Brown, of any pitcher he's ever been around. I mean, that's saying a lot, because he won a lot of games himself, And, you know, he's seen a lot of great pitchers.
It really is saying a lot when you consider how many years Dave Stewart was around himself.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But he said the second half, I mean, this guy was amazing. He won a lot of games the first half season, but his second half, he was just in charge. And he said he was throwing well right on up until his last start. They just stopped scoring runs for him.
Foul ball. Well, how about this, Joe? In his last 11 starts, a 1.71 earned run average.
But what was his record in those? See, I mean, 1.71, you're supposed to win 10 out of those 11.
Well, they scored 13 runs total in his 7 losses all year.
Yeah. Well,
he had a 3.24 ERA in his losses. As I recall, he was 0-7 in those losses.
That tells you, I mean, he really threw the ball well the entire season, but especially the second half.
3-2 to Gutierrez. Osmus and then Randy Johnson coming up here.
That's one thing he's learned to do is back off.
Struck him out, and that is number 4 for Brown.
Let's take a look at the play that Biggio made on Tony Gwynn to end the inning, the top of the inning. Look how far he has to go to get this ball. This is a ground ball on AstroTurf. Remember that he never really slows up. Takes it, and he gets a good, accurate throw. Bagwell at first base helps him out. But he goes behind second, sets himself, and makes a good throw. But as you mentioned, Tony Gwynn, now 38 years old, probably would have beaten that out a couple of years ago.
That's a base hit for Osmus. They got a lot of stars in this Astros club. Bagwell, Biggio, Alou, Bell, and of course Randy Johnson, Billy Wagner. And I think this guy gets overshadowed a lot. I mean, he is an outstanding catcher, throws out a huge percentage of the guys who try to steal against him, and he fits in real nicely on this club. It's my Brad Osmus oft overlooked speech.
And I agree with you. No, he's a very good player. But like you said, there's so many stars in there, he gets overshadowed here.
Randy Johnson. He bunted at it and missed it. And Carlos Hernandez missed it too. Osmus over to second.
Well, that was kind of an ugly bunt attempt by Johnson, and I think that's what threw Hernandez off. He just kind of stuck the bat out and pulled it back. I mean, he was trying to bunt it, but he...
I mean, this is the worst bunt attempt I've ever seen.
I told you, I mean, it was ugly. I mean, that's ugly right
look
there.
at that. He
that's
fouled
a foul tip.
He fouled it.
Well, maybe not.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe not.
Or is that the same replay? Oh, he missed that one too. Another pass ball for Hernandez. 2 in a row. What is going on here?
Hernandez is upset at someone. I don't think it's Brown. Oh, he drops his head. He dropped his head. Watch his head right there.
He blinked.
Oh, he did more than blink. He drops his whole head. I don't understand that. I don't know why. I mean, I've seen guys blink, but that was an entire head movement. Now there's
it looked to me like the plate umpire Rapolano was indicating. No, he couldn't be indicating.
No, he was saying
one of those he called a strike.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. So the count is 1 ball and 1 strike. Although, I mean, Randy, it seemed like he bunted at both of them, didn't it?
I thought he did.
0-2?
I thought he bunted both.
Should be 0-2. The infield is in for the Padres.
Well, maybe they should just square around and do a safety squeeze.
Randy.
Just see if they can get see if the guy can just do it another time.
Bunt at it and miss it intentionally this time. That's worked. That's been the best offensive play of the day.
Hello. His chances of making contact aren't very good either, so we might as well try it.
Well, all too reminiscent of the American League Championship Series last year. Strike 3 call to Johnson. 5 strikeouts for Kevin Brown already. 2 down. But Johnson gets a round of applause. He got Osmus from first to third up there and never made contact. The best results on the worst bunt attempts we've ever seen. That's a major league record.
I don't think I've ever seen 2 pass balls on 2 pitches either.
Well, you remember last year what happened to Baltimore in Cleveland. There was a ball that got away from Lenny Webster, and 2 runs scored on it. One of the key plays of that whole series.
And Webster maintained that they fouled the ball
to this day. I don't think Lenny, if you just say to Lenny, how you doing, Lenny? He says, it was foul. He fouled it. On the count to Biggio. Well, that's part of this, the pressure of being here. Everything you do is magnified. Craig Biggio. He walked his first time. There is Osmus at third base. Quickly, Brown is ahead of Biggio, 0-2. And you saw Biggio. I mean, he has been the Astros' best for 2 straight years in these kinds of situations. You put a man in scoring position, and he raises his whole game. 360 batting average with runners in scoring position this year.
I mean, he drove in 88 runs as a leadoff hitter.
Yeah.
Garcia Parra drove in 98 in the American League, but he had a DH in front of him.
Wow. That is 6 strikeouts for Kevin Brown. He's only faced 10 hitters. The power coming up now. Greg Vaughn will be coming up with his 50 homers against the big unit. Don't miss him. Welcome back to Game 1 of the National League Division Series. Already in progress. A base hit by Greg Vaughn on the first pitch from Randy Johnson. The Padres have a base runner leading off an inning for the first time. Their 3rd hit against Johnson, and now Ken Caminetti to the plate.
Well, Johnson started off, he was unhittable. He struck out 2 in the first inning, including Tony Gwynn. But now, I mean, they have actually started to put some wood on the ball.
Caminetti drove one deep to right. This one is deep into right center. But Derek Bell. And it's awfully tough even now, although it's a much more friendly home run park. Still tough to go deep to the opposite field in the Astrodome.
Yeah, you're right. It's much more friendly now for the home run hitter than it was. I mean, the year Jimmy Wynn hit 37 home runs, I mean, it was like almost impossible to hit the ball out in the alleys.
One down now, Jim Leyritz. The Astros 55 wins and 26 losses this year at home, although they still hit a couple more home runs on the road than they did here. But I think if you talk to them now, they feel like this has become just a fair home run ballpark. There's the pickoff, and Vaughn is out. Bagwell to Gutierrez.
Vaughn just takes off on his first move, and it's a tough play for Bagwell because he has to throw directly over his shoulder of the runner, and he does a good job. But that's why Bagwell is one of the better fielding first basemen in this league as well.
Jim Leyritz takes ball 1. So Greg Vaughn caught stealing. Deep center. Everett. Just like that, the inning is over. Randy Johnson, no strikeouts, but he only threw 4 pitches in the inning. No score. Spires. Then Derek Bell and Jeff Bagwell. Coming up, no score. No score from the Astrodome. We go to the last of the 4th.
Well, Carlos Hernandez had 2 different problems on those wild pitches. I mean, 2 consecutive pitches in a row. Now watch this one, his back of his glove. He closed his glove too quickly on the first one. Watch that. See, it hits the back of his glove. Now on the second one, watch his head. I mean, he drops his head. So how can you see the ball if you drop your head? And he ducked right under the pitch. So 2 different problems, 2 different pass balls.
And 1 hopper on the first pitch to Spires, and an unassisted put out for Jim Leyritz. After the inning, Hernandez into the dugout.
Well, he actually ends up, he was talking to Brown, but I don't know exactly what he was talking about earlier. I saw him talking to Brown. But I don't blame him for being upset.
Well, Brown's stuff has such incredible movement on it. Many's the catcher who's had problems catching it. Derek Bell. I mean, it's tough for hitters But it could be tough for a catcher as well. And I remember when he pitched in Baltimore, Chris Hoyles was his catcher. Hoyles was so beleaguered behind the plate working with Brown, with having so much problem with the movement on Brown's pitches and that sort of thing. Sometimes they would not even sit next to each other in the dugout. They'd be so upset with each other.
All right, well, see, all right, maybe he was crossed up there, because what he's basically saying is, when I give you the circle, I want the sinker, and the other one, you know, is the straight fastball, and maybe he threw him in reverse order there, because that's definitely what he was saying there, is that, you know, he was throwing a pitch he wasn't expecting.
Well, and anybody who's ever caught Kevin Brown could empathize with Carlos Hernandez over that one. Like the straight fastball there. But I got a piece of it.
I hesitate, but I had to laugh, because you were talking about how difficult it is to catch some of these movement. And every once in a while, when Johnny Bench would have one of his fast pass balls over a couple of years, Tony Perez would say, all you got to do is sit there and catch the ball. You don't have to do anything else. You know what I mean? I used to laugh at Bench. He'd have 2 pass balls a year, and he'd get on him about that.
2-2 the count. Oh, man. Kevin Brown
is more overpowering than Randy Johnson.
I mean, I've never seen him throw this hard before, Joe. Now, maybe he's been doing this all year. I don't know, but I mean, he's throwing 97, 98 miles an hour.
I told you, Dave Stewart said it's the best he's ever seen anybody throw the second half of a season. And these guys are completely overmatched. And remember one thing, the Astros are basically a right-handed hitting team with their power. You know, and the Dodgers were like that for years and couldn't get the job done. The difference between the Dodgers and the Astros, though, is the Astros have speed from the right side, and the Dodgers did not.
Well, I mean, we're talking about one of the best pitchers in the National League for 3 straight years. In the last 3 years, he's got the lowest earned run average of any pitcher in baseball. I mean, Maddox, Clemens, Pedro Martinez, Glavine, the big unit, you name them. And Brown's ERA is better than all of them. That's a 3-year period. 2-0 the count. And now 2-1 to Bagwell, who struck out his first time. That's 7 strikeouts in 3 2/3 innings. And he's recorded 11 outs, 7 of them with a strikeout.
And he's throwing from a variety of angles. He dropped down and threw a sinking fastball to Bagwell there on 2-0. He didn't want to give him a cripple to hit.
Ooh, that was close.
Look at the movement on that pitch.
3-1 the count. Jeff Bagwell with only 1 strike, did not have to chase that one. That one was up more, and again 97 miles an hour. Where does he get those extra miles per hour, Joe? Well, I remember him maybe 92, 91, occasionally 93, 94.
Well, a lot of times, you know, what the pitchers do, they throw the riding fastball, they call it the 4-seamer, and then you take the 2-seamer to make it sink. Maybe the seams are feeling better to him today. 2 of the Astro stars, Bell and Biggio.
Bagwell staying alive. And we've got 2 of the premier pitchers going here today. That was our story at the top of the telecast. But right now, Kevin Brown is the one who is looking almost unhittable. Randy Johnson has been sensational. He has 4 strikeouts in 4 innings. He's given up 3 hits, only 1 hit for the Astros. That by Brad Ausmus. Hit hard, but right to the shortstop. Gomez throws it out. A 3-up, 3-down inning. We're going to the 5th. Steve Finley coming up against Randy Johnson. No score. It's game 1 of the National League Division Series. We looked at it as perhaps the best pitching matchup in the first round of playoffs this year. And so far, Randy Johnson and Kevin Brown have delivered up to expectations. No score in the game. 5th inning. There have been 4 hits in the game, all singles. 3 of them by the Padres. Steve Finley, the hitter. Johnson is behind 2-0. This may be the first time he's been behind 2-0.
Well, I was going to say what the hitters are going to have to do is hope these guys get tired and lose an inch or 2 on their fastball, because, I mean, at this rate, you're not going to touch these guys the way they're throwing and the control they have. So it's just going to be a matter of which one tires first.
2-1. Oh, that one came up and looked like it hit Ed Rapuano, but I think it might have gotten him on the that flap that's there to protect his Adam's apple. 2-2 the count. So they have that protective flap beneath the mask. Glad to have it there. Slider. He took 3-2. Too low. Carlos Hernandez and Chris Gomez will follow.
Brown has been more overpowering to this point.
And that is the first walk allowed by Johnson. It's the first time he'd even gone to 3 balls on a hitter. So Finley, who hit only 188 against left-handers this year, draws a walk. And they call it a free pass. That's the cliche for it, but in this case, it certainly was a gift.
Well, I said he was in there for his defense against left-handers, 188. And that's, as you mentioned, against regular left-handers.
That's against just mere mortal lefties. His ball, one, a slider to Hernandez. Hernandez hit a fastball for a single his first time.
He had a very impressive at bat in that he shortened his stroke and stroked it in the center field for a base hit.
Steve Finley is capable of stealing a base. High foul that will go out of play on the first base side. 1 ball, 1 strike.
John, I just thought about something. Both of these pitchers, Randy Johnson and Kevin Brown, are free agents at the end of the year. Just think if one team were able to pick both of those guys up.
Like which team, for instance?
Well, you'd go into that town, it'd be an immediate slump for the hitters.
Yeah.
2 days in a row, 0 for 8 or something. That could be difficult.
Like, let's say Boston picked him up. Pedro Martinez, Kevin Brown, and then Randy Johnson.
No, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't be fair.
They could win some games that way. There's a base hit for Hernandez. And Randy said he wanted to go back to the American League, right? He was very upset about being traded out of the American League. And I think part of the reason, maybe one of the biggest reasons, he doesn't like going up there to have to hit. Carlos Hernandez, by the way, is 2 for 2 in this game. Now Chris Gomez, 2 men on, nobody out. It's the first real scoring threat here for the Padres. They had 2 on, but with 2 out in the second inning. Big chop to third, having to wait for it. Fires! He got him! And that may have been his only play.
That was great hustle by Finley and great hustle there by Spires. That was just a nice play. If you watch Finley, I mean, he was hustling. He took off right away. He knew that may be Spires' only play, and he was trying to take that away from him. And watch Finley. I mean, he goes right away. He knows that may be the only play that he has, and Spires beats him to the bag. Nice play there.
And watch Finley overslide the bag. Even if he'd made it, Spires could have gotten up and tagged Finley out.
Yeah, I think Finley was trying to avoid the tag as well. He didn't know if Spires was going to turn and try to tag him or beat him to the bag.
Now Kevin Brown. So an excellent play by Bill Spires. Brown pops it up. Caught in front of the plate. Brad Austin. Well, they got the first 2 men of the inning aboard, and things have not gone well since.
Well, we'll watch Kevin Brown. He starts off well with always keep the barrel above the ball, but don't drop the head like that. Just go down to the ball and play catch. And that's why he hits a pop-up. He started correctly, barrel above the ball.
Well, it's been tough for both teams to even threaten a run in this game. And one of the problems has been that in some of the few scoring opportunities they've had, each team has had its pitcher up there with a man in scoring position. Silvio Veras, leadoff man. Oh, man. That slider just tore him apart. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, with the 2 runners on, I wanted to see if Randy was going to turn it up a notch to go back to where he was earlier in the ball game. I don't think he did. I don't think we're going to see the Randy Johnson that we saw in the first inning for the rest of this ball game. So he's going to sliders right as he does there. There's another slider.
Foul ball. Now he's ahead of Veras. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Silvio Veras is grounded out and flied out. He's 0 for 2. That is a foul ball. We've got these rally towels or whatever that apparently they passed out, and everybody in the Astrodome was waving their rally towels, or in this case, I guess, the strikeout, the anti-rally towel. It's quite a scene to see this whole ballpark and all of these towels being waved in the air. Oh, man. Well, back up to 96 with that one, and he spun Veras around with it. 2-2.
Well, he was going to put a little extra on it and blow him away on that one, and lost control of it. This is supposedly a strikeout pitch right there, but he gets away from it.
The slider got him looking. That's 5 for Randy Johnson. Moises Alou coming up. No score. The Padres and Astros, Johnson and Brown, no score halfway through it.
And when you're Randy Johnson, this pitch here is devastating. I mean, look how he slings the ball out toward first base. It stays out away from the hitter and then breaks over the plate. And watch this. This ball breaks over the middle of the plate, but it started about a foot off the plate outside. It's just almost impossible for a right-handed hitter to hit that pitch. I mean, you automatically give up on it because it starts so far off the plate.
Speaking of being almost impossible to hit, Kevin Brown goes back to work now. He's got 7 strikeouts in 4 innings. The other 5 outs have all been on ground balls. The only Astro hitter who's gotten the ball airborne against him was Ausmus with a single. Threw a slider there. Kind of hung it up there for Alou, but he bounced it meekly foul off to the left.
Well, we get a loan, the two of us, buy a team and sign both of these free agents and win us a pennant.
We could save a lot of money in our offense. Don't have to score a whole lot, right?
You're right.
1 ball, 1 strike.
We could go with cheap labor at other positions, huh?
1 ball, 1 strike to Alou. Oh, Alou, who had such big hits in that World Series, helping benefit his current foe, Kevin Brown. Remember, Game 5, they were down 4-2. He hit a 3-run homer, put them ahead. Smashed one against Oral Hershiser. That one, that might have been the split-fingered pitch, because that just disappeared up there. And he is thrown out by the catcher. That's 8 strikeouts for Brown. Divisional series beginning tomorrow again at 1 o'clock. Don't forget, baseball tonight starts at 12:30. Then the Cubs and the Braves, game 1 from Atlanta. We'll have that for you. And me and Joe Carter will be there at 4 o'clock, actually. The Red Sox and Indians at 1 o'clock. Game 2 there. Big one for Cleveland. Then the Cubs and Braves at 4. And tomorrow night, it's the Texas Rangers and New York Yankees, game 2. They're also playing game 1 tonight at Yankee Stadium. Todd Stottlemyre for Texas and David Wells for the Yankees. 8 o'clock tonight, Eastern Time. Carl Everett. He's only seen 4 pitches thus far from Kevin Brown, all strikes. Kevin Brown, I mean, it's incredible what happened to him when he moved from the American League to the National League. Several years with Texas, then a year in Baltimore. And I say slider, that could be the splitter. One or the other. 1 ball, 1 strike to Everett. But you know, Joe, his earned run average in his American League career was 3.78. As a National Leaguer, 2.33. That ball is airborne deep into center field. Finley way back there. Out number 2.
And I think one of the reasons for that is that the National League ballparks overall are bigger than the American League ballparks. You know, and one mistake over there can cost you 3 runs, where you make a mistake here, it's a single or a double that, you know, drives in 1 run. Let's take a look at Everett. That looked like a little breaking ball right there, and that's why he got it in the air. It was a slider. No one's been able to get that fastball in the air, but that was a slider, and he got pretty good wood on it.
Here's Gutierrez. And that's back out of play. Gutierrez struck out his first time. But in his American League career, he always gave up a lot of hits. A sinker baller, guys would put the ball in play. He gave up 26 more hits than innings pitched for more than 1,400 innings over there. But now in the National League, he'd become much more difficult to hit.
Well, I think a lot of it too, John, is just his maturation as a pitcher. I mean, you know, he's more experienced. He knows more about his strengths and his weaknesses.
One hop of the third, that kicks foul.
So I've always felt that you never become a good hitter, a good pitcher, or a good player until you know your weaknesses as well as your strength. He knows the mistakes that he was making before giving up a lot of base hit. He's corrected that. And from the hitter's perspective, if you can't hit the high fastball, you have to learn to lay off of it. You don't say, well, I'm just a good low fastball hitter. You say, I'm not a good high fastball hitter, so I don't swing at it. And I think Kevin Brown, like a lot of pitchers, it takes them a while before they really understand, you know, what their strengths are to go along with those weaknesses.
Got him looking. That is number 9 for Brown in 5 innings. Randy Johnson's got a lot more work to do. Tony Gwynn, Greg Vaughn, Ken Caminetti. The big guns are coming up. Tony Gwynn, first ball swinging, lifts a high foul out of play against Randy Johnson. So here we go, the classic matchup. The great dominant pitcher and the great hitter. Tony Gwynn, 16 consecutive years over 300. Perennial batting champion. Just off the outside.
That was strike 3 in the first inning. That's why Randy kind of took a pause there. He said that was a strike the first time up.
Strike 2. It's a matter of inches, Joe. First one was like 3 inches further out. 1 and 2. The slider. Look at that! Off the glove of Bill Spires and down the left field line. Gwynn's going to test it. A loose throw is over the head of Biggio. Backed up by Bagwell.
That's Tony Gwynn at his best right there. I mean, I don't know how a left-hander can hit this pitch and hit it that hard down the left field line. And then he hustles into a double, but he's hurting at second base. I mean, his Achilles tendon is still bothering him. He hustles it into a double, but he's paid the price. I mean, this is a beautiful pitch from Randy Johnson. Watch it. Look at the ball diving low and away, and Tony Gwynn hits a bullet. Look at that. I mean, but that's why Tony Gwynn's a great hitter. Look, he just goes to it with his upper body. See, he is not a legs hitter. He hits with his upper body and his hands. And that's why he's so successful. That's why he can throw the head of the bat at the ball like that and hit it the other way. I don't know another left-handed hitter that could have hit that pitch.
Now Greg Vaughn. And here's another classic confrontation. Greg Vaughn, one of those select few players to ever have hit 50 home runs in a season. He did it this year. The RBI leader for the Padres. Fastball on the inside. 2 strikes to count the ball.
John, I said that I knew Tony Gwynn would make some adjustments to Randy Johnson, but I'm going to tell you what. As a left-handed hitter, former left-handed hitter, that is just an unbelievable hit right there for him to hit that pitch.
And critical here, leading off in front of the sluggers. That was drilled foul. He got the slider, and he ripped it, but foul. This is the 3rd consecutive inning in which the Padres have gotten their leadoff man on base. So if they don't score here, it's going to start taking its toll on them, perhaps psychologically. Getting chances against Johnson and not getting anything for it. Beautiful pickup by Spires. 1 hop. Peace. Gwynn held it second.
Good hustle by Greg Vaughn. I mean, he got out of the box really well, and he was running well. That was a tough play. Spires thought he was going to have a chance to get him, but good hustle there. And that fact that Gwynn ran his into a double took away the force out at second base. He is safe. Spires thought he was out, but you take another look at it. He's across the bag. And good hustle here by Vaughn. You heard the bag before you heard the glove.
Strike 1 to Caminetti. MVP in the National League 2 years ago. Came on strong in the second half last year after recovering from surgery. This year, plagued with injuries. Broken back, bloop. Biggio. It is a base hit. And the bases are loaded. Gwynn had to hold up to make sure that it wasn't caught. And he limps into third. Vaughn going over to second.
Biggio is hustling back. I thought he had a chance at it. He did. He just barely misses it. Tony Gwynn, smart base runner. Vaughn takes a big enough lead that they can't force him at second. Good base running by both Vaughn and Gwynn.
So now the bases are loaded with nobody out. Leyritz, former World Series hero. When a chance to put him ahead.
When people talk about strikeout pitchers, this is where they become important.
2-0.
It's not important to have strikeouts with no one on base. But if you're a strikeout pitcher, every once in a while you get in trouble like this, you can strike your way out of it. I wonder how many times Nolan Ryan had the bases loaded with no one out and struck out the side.
Popped up foul on out of play. 2-1 the count. Well, if he can get the strikeout here, then a double play ball would end the inning with nobody scoring. Or if he could just strike all three of them out, nobody scores.
At this point, I think that's his thinking. I'm going to strike out 3 guys in a row here.
Finley, the left-handed hitter, is on deck. High and foul and out of play. Now it's 2 strikes and 2 balls to Leyritz.
This is when, you know, a strikeout pitcher, you know, his mentality is that, hey, that's why I'm a strikeout pitcher. I can do it in clutch situations, and this is definitely a clutch situation for him.
Now the towels start to wave around the Astrodome. The strikeout towels. Johnson in trouble. 3 men on, nobody out. That's a high drive deep into left center field. Everett back on the warning track. Gwynn will score, and everybody else moves up to throw. Safe at second. Caminetti just beat the strong throw by Everett. And Jim Leyritz has put the Padres ahead 1-0.
And I tell you what, Randy Johnson a little lucky there. Jim Leyritz got great wood on that ball. He just got under it a little bit. He had a good swing at a fastball and almost hit it out of the ballpark. Watch this swing. Barrel of the bat. Look at that, where the barrel of the bat is, out front. I mean, he thought maybe he got it. And look at that, right on the warning track. He just barely missed hitting it out of the ballpark. Good hustle here by Caminetti. And see Biggio tagged just a little late.
Now Finley, and that's a called strike. And again, he's looking for the strikeout here with Vaughn at third base and Caminetti at second base. Finley has struck out looking, but he's also walked. 1-0. The Padres have gone ahead here in the 6th inning. And it is 0-2. So Kevin Brown and the Padres have taken the lead here. And Johnson trying to effect some damage control here. And to make it just the one. The slider. Wow. 3 pitches. See you later.
And not to make fun of Steve Finley, but that's what a normal left-handed hitter would do on that slider, just diving away with 2 strikes. And we saw Tony Gwynn get a base hit on this pitch. Look at, watch this pitch. Diving off the outside corner. I mean, that's what a normal left-handed hitter does. I mean, you do not hit this pitch. Look at that, off the plate, but Tony Gwynn took it and lined it down the left field line. Now, that's one of the greatest swings I think I've ever seen.
Larry Dierker out there. Carlos Hernandez, who's 2 for 2 at the plate. Chris Gomez, who's 0 for 2 behind him. They've got first base open. Well, that's quite a statement there, Joe.
That's one of the greatest I've seen. I mean,
in other words, we just saw the same pitch,
right,
and put him away.
Right.
That pitch, Tony Gwynn somehow hit, and he hit it hard.
Hit it hard. He didn't just flip it down there. He hit a bullet over the third baseman's head. So, I mean, but that's why he's won all those batting crowns.
So they're going after Carlos Hernandez. Now I'm wondering if Dierker said, could you just as soon walk Hernandez? He's 2 for 2, and go after Gomez, but he's going after Hernandez. And he's going after him hard. It's 0-2.
I don't think you will ever get a top-notch pitcher to say, I will walk someone at the bottom of the order voluntarily. And if the manager says do it, you do it. But he always thinks that he can get somebody out at the bottom of the order.
Into the hole. This is going to be a long throw from Gutierrez, but he got him by plenty. Well, the Padres get a run, but they had the bases loaded, nobody out, and just the one. We'll be back. coverage of the National League Division Series is brought to you by Conseco, where their goal is to help you protect well, create well for life. And by Red Wing Shoes. For the dealer nearest you, call 1-800-359-BOOT. John Miller and Joe Morgan here. Thrilled to be right here for the start of the National League Division Series. But now, bad news for the Padres. Tony Gwynn has had that Achilles tendon problem. We saw him limping. He's been replaced by Ruben Rivera.
Well, I knew he hurt himself when he was running to second base. You know, because he stayed there a long time when he slid into second base, and I knew he was hurting.
So Gwynn is out and the young Rivera in. Kevin Brown with a 1-0 lead. Brad Ausmus bouncing one foul. Ausmus has the only hit for the Astros against Brown. And Joe, that's, I think, this year for the first time, the teams with the best records get the advantage, not only with home field, but sort of being seeded in the series. And the team with the best record ended up playing the wild card team, the Cubs, the Braves, because the Braves did not want to have to face either the Padres or the Astros in the first round, knowing they'd have to face Kevin Brown or Randy Johnson. I mean, these two pitchers are the kind of pitchers that it's hard to forecast. I mean, they could be on that day just unhittable, and thus far Brown has been exactly that. Just a one hit allowed, and another one for Brad Ausmus. All of his teammates are hitless, but he's 2 for 2. The American League Series started today. Let's go to Bob Stevens for an update.
Game 1 of the American League Division Series in Cleveland. Pedro Martinez, tough, striking out 8 in 7 innings. He also got a whole lot of help from the 3 and 4 hitters. Mo Vaughn, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, tying Edgar Martinez's postseason record. Nomar, a homer and 4 RBIs. Red Sox cruise. Game 2 tomorrow afternoon.
There's a bunt by Randy Johnson. He actually made contact this time, and it's foul. He's had better success without making contact. 2 pass balls on 2 bunts where he missed. 0-1 the count. Ausmus at first, nobody out. The Astros trail 1-0. Now that is incredible.
Hey, Mo Vaughn was 0 for 14 when Cleveland swept Boston last time. He said he wasn't ready. He was ready today.
Johnson punts it foul.
He said he just wasn't ready for the big stage last time. Now he knows more about himself and his hitting. And he proved it today.
And Conseco both were shut down pretty well in that series by Cleveland. And now the 2 big guys speak loudly the first day. I mean, that's incredible that the 2 guys drive in all 11 runs. I'm stunned by that, Joe. I'm going to be talking about that in the airport tonight on my way to Atlanta.
You'll be talking about that like I'm talking about Tony Gwynn's hit, huh?
Well, I'm also going to talk about that. I'm going to be telling everybody, saying, Joe says that is one of the greatest swings he's ever. I don't think you said one of them.
Yeah, I think, one of the greatest swings I've ever seen with 2 strikes like that and against that tougher pitcher.
Wanted foul by Randy. Strike 3. And he is out. That is the 10th strikeout for Kevin Brown. 1 out of the 6th at the top of the order now. Biggio coming up.
Well, he has had Biggio completely tied up tonight. What he has been able to do is throw a straight fastball away and then run that sinker back in. And he hasn't even used the slider that much against Biggio. So, kind of like what I saw last night with Steve Traxel pitching to Barry Bonds. He's frustrating him.
And now he hits him. And Biggio will take it. He was hit 23 times during the year. And that puts Brown in his first real jam of the game.
Well, he's trying to run that fastball back in on him like he has been the entire ball game, but this one gets away. And Biggio really doesn't get out of the way. Look at this. He just stands there and gets hit. I mean, maybe he couldn't get out of the way, but there wasn't much of an attempt right there to get out of the way of that pitch.
A lot of managers upset because Biggio wears that big apparatus on his left elbow and forearm. And a lot of people feel that he's not afraid of getting a hit to get on base.
Well, he definitely did not make a great attempt to get out of the way there.
It's the first time in the game that the Astros have had 2 men on base in the same inning. Bill Spires, the hitter. He is grounded into a double play, grounded out to first. Foul off the left field line. The problem for the Astros has been when they make contact, most of the time they make it on the ground. The first batter who came up today was Craig Biggio. He walked. But then Spires promptly hit into a double play. Brown has 10 strikeouts and a whole lot of ground balls. Smith at second, Biggio at first. Bill Spires trying to deliver the Astros' first run. Breaking ball in the dirt. Nice save by Carlos Hernandez.
Yeah, he jumped over and got his entire body in front of that ball.
Kept the runners where they can still get the ground ball double play. So it's a big play. Jose Lima. That must be the rally cap, Joe.
Well, I don't know about that.
He just became a Mouseketeer.
Maybe that's what it is.
Oh, I think that's the splitter.
Well, I think that was a changeup. I'm gonna go with a changeup. Yeah,
he doesn't like to throw the changeup.
I know he doesn't, but he was so far out in front of that pitch, it was too slow to be a splitter, I think. We'll ask him after the game.
I want to know now. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Now that may have been a splitter. That was a splitter. See, that was much harder.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
And I think that changeup is very effective against left-handed hitters because you see the pitch and you immediately think it's a sinker, and then it continues to go down and you get out in front of it.
Smith at second, Biggio at first.
Luke Tension and Larry Baker's face today.
Well, Randy Johnson gave up a run in this inning. He's pitched 49 innings at the Astrodome this year and has only allowed a run in 2 of those innings, including the one today. And of course, with the big unit on the mound at home, this is a game they expect to win, and a game they may well feel they need to win. And they're trailing right now. 3-2. Runners are not going, and it's a foul.
Now, it's games like this, though, that make you realize how good the Atlanta Braves really are and the fact that you're still going to have to beat the Braves. I mean, we're talking about Kevin Brown and Randy Johnson shutting each other down today. But any one of 3 or 4 guys on the Braves can do that on any given day. Shut you down, and they've got that experience. So that's why the Braves are still probably the team to beat in this National League to get to the World Series.
Well, they won 106 games. An all-time franchise record. Runners are going. Silvio Veras throws him out. The runners now to third and second, respectively. Osmus and Biggio with Derek Bell coming up.
That was interesting that Durker chose to do that, but I've always believed that you have to do something when a pitcher is pitching so well. You have to try to do anything that you can do to get him out of his rhythm. That's to steal a base, hit and run, do anything you can. If you let him stay in his rhythm, you know, normally he's going to continue to beat you.
Well, you kept saying that last year, advising the Astros to do that against Greg Maddux, but they never did.
Right? But the Marlins did, and they won.
Foul.
Not that that's the only reason they won. They had the Kevin Browns of the world, Levon Hernandez, and they played very well.
And the Braves, behind Greg Maddux in his first start last year in the LCS, did not play well. There's a ball that Kenny Lofton did not hold, a ball that Chipper Jones let get past him. And 4 or 5 unearned runs in that game behind Maddox. Base hit here could mean 2. Derek Bell, who has struck out twice in this game, who has only 1 hit in 13 career at-bats against Brown. On the inside corner. 0-2.
You know, we've talked about both Kevin Brown and Randy Johnson and how well they're throwing and spotting the ball. A lot of that credit has to go to these catchers. Watch how he catches this ball. Right there, and he leaves it there for the umpire. He doesn't pull it. He's not doing anything. And Osmus is doing the same thing. They're making good catches of these strikes and these pitches on the corner.
Osmus at third. Biggio at second. 2 down. That's off the outside. 1-2. Derek Bell 0 for 13 against the Atlanta Braves last year in the division series. So he's coming to see the at-bats pile up here a little bit without getting his first postseason hit. 2-2.
Well, that's as far as he wants to go with Derek Bell, because you do not want to risk walking and have to pitch to Bagwell with the bases loaded.
Bagwell would be next. Randy Johnson down 1-0 in this game. Last of the 6. 2 on, 2 out. Struck him out. Number 11 for Kevin Brown. 7th inning coming up now. Still 1-0 San Diego. Padres 1, Astros nothing as we move to the 7th inning. Randy Johnson back on the hill. This Friday at 8 Eastern on ESPN2, it's the premiere of Friday Night Fights. Andrew Galata and Tim Weatherspoon, the main event. Muhammad Ali will be featured in the Classic Fight segment. It's Friday, 8 Eastern. First ball swinging, base hit for Chris Gomez against Johnson here in the 7th. And Joe, they've started to have some success with that first ball swinging here.
Well, he's starting a lot of hitters off with fastballs, and they're not taking them. And I think his velocity's down just a little bit. And I guess I would say that he has shown signs of weakening first here.
The 4th consecutive inning where the Padres leadoff man has reached base. Kevin Brown, who tried to bunt but popped it up for an out his last time. He's also struck out. He's 0 for 2. 0-1 the count. Tim Flannery, the third base coach, flashing some signs. 1-0. San Diego is leading. And getting a run looks like it'll be awfully difficult for the Astros. I mean, Kevin Brown, keep in mind the Astros have been the highest scoring team in the league this year. They have been tough to shut down. But Kevin Brown has shut them down for 6 innings on only 2 hits. The other troubling aspect, if you're the Padres right now, they had a great chance to do a lot more than they did. They got 1 run. They had the bases loaded and nobody out, and their 5th place hitter at the plate, Jim Leyritz, and he hit a long sacrifice fly that moved all the other runners up as well. But they only got 1 run out of that great opportunity. The bunt is fouled. I'd have a hard time, Joe. Who wants to stand there squaring around facing Randy Johnson when he's throwing that hard stuff, trying to bunt?
Well, Kevin hasn't done a real good job of that so far, but I mean, this is the difference, could be the difference between a win and a loss.
But I just think the body is not really with him. You just don't want to do it. He got that one down. And let go fine. So strike 3. 7th strikeout for Randy Johnson. Gomez will have to go back to first.
Well, he did a better job on that particular pitch, but he just didn't quite get the bat out far enough. But he tried. At least he went forward towards the ball.
Randy Johnson had 329 strikeouts this year. That's the most he's ever had in his career. Of course, he did not end up leading either league in strikeouts, since he had some of them in the American and some in the National. Ball 1 to kill Vilveras. It's the most strikeouts that any pitcher has had since Nolan Ryan 11 years ago. Ryan back in 19. In fact, I'm 10 years off. 21 years ago, Nolan Ryan had 341 strikeouts. Into center field, Everett. And Veras is retired.
But they're hitting the ball much harder now and more consistent.
Veras is gone, and now Ruben Rivera instead of Tony Gwynn. He was obviously hurting. The big question, not only for the rest of this game, but for the rest of the series, how much is going to be able to play with that injury.
They'll have tomorrow off, which will help him, of course.
So they get a break there. The Padres did not hit that well this season. Only a .253 team average. And slider misses badly up and away. 1 ball and no strikes to Rivera. They think Ruben Rivera could be Sammy Sosa 7 years ago. He's got that kind of ability. Great power. He runs well. Strong outfield arm. And if he can put it all together at some point, a chance to be a superstar. Out of the Yankees farm system, he was part of the Hideki Irabu trade. Slider misses. 1 ball, 1 strike.
One other thing about Gwynn, John, you know, running on AstroTurf has to hurt your Achilles a lot more than it would running on natural surfaces. And this AstroTurf here is, you know, tough on knees and injuries.
Unforgiving.
Yeah.
2-1, by the way, is the count, not 1-1. Now it's 3-1. After Rivera, the veteran Greg Vaughn. You see, Johnson was trying to confirm what the count was because the scoreboard in the ballpark has 2-1. 3-2. And Rivera refused to take his walk there. The man on deck hit 50 home runs this year. Strike 3 called. Slider over the outside. And that's 8 for Johnson. Jeff Bagwell is coming up. Then Alou and Everett. Padres 1, Astros nothing. Last of the 7th, and the power's up. Jeff Bagwell. Hard sinker inside. 1 ball, no strikes. Bagwell has struck out and grounded ashore.
John, it was interesting. All the talk has been about how Randy Johnson can shut a team down. Kevin Tower, the GM at San Diego, said
high drive to right. Playable for Rivera. 1 away, and that's a big out.
Kevin Towers said that he would match Kevin Brown against Randy Johnson or anyone else on AstroTurf, natural turf, or whatever. And so far, it looks like he's correct. Well, here's the final strikeout for Johnson as they're going to pinch hit. And that ball breaks. And it's called strike 3. And that's a breaking ball.
Eight strikeouts for Johnson, 11 strikeouts for Kevin Brown. Moises Alou robbed of a hit in the 2nd inning by Caminetti. Struck out on the 5th, and he's down 0-1 here. Kevin Brown last year in the division series against the Giants pitched 1 game. In 7 innings, he gave up 1 run, 4 hits. In the league championship series against Atlanta, he was 2-0. Slider, wow, and a hard one. 0-2 the count.
Well, Moises has not had a good swing in this entire ball game. He hit a ground ball in the hole with 2 strikes that Caminetti made a nice play on, but he has not looked comfortable hitting against Kevin Brown.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Well, the big guns, Bell 0 for 3, 3 strikeouts. Bagwell 0 for 3, 1 strikeout. Alou 0 for 2, 1 strikeout. And Biggio has been on base twice. And he's 0 for 1. He's walked and been hit by a pitch. Dropped down to the side with a sinker. 2-2.
And Moises Alou is also in a power drought. He hit his 38th home run on August 24th, and he has not hit another home run since, which is about 100 at bats.
And down on strikes is Alou. 12 strikeouts for Brown.
I mean, just watch and you'll see what I mean when I say he's not comfortable. And then Moises Alou, one of the better hitters in this league. And watch, I mean, just watch the swings that they're taking. He's taking against Kevin Brown. I mean, you can't hurt anyone with those swings. He's not going to be able to do much. And finally, I mean, those are not Alou-like swings. Accounted for 38 home runs and 120 plus RBIs.
Carl Everett, 0-1. This is only the third year of the division series. Carl Everett, by the way, his front foot is almost touching home plate. The ball sinking down and away. 1 ball, 1 strike. Look how close he is to the plate.
And there is technically supposed to be a line there 6 inches off the plate.
1 ball and 2 strikes. 12 strikeouts for Kevin Brown. You see Biggio a little unhappy with Ed Rapuano, the plate umpire there. And 13 strikeouts. 12 was already a division series record. John Smoltz had 11 in a game last year in the National League. There's ball 1 from Randy Johnson to Greg Vaughn, and the power is coming up for San Diego. We're into the 8th inning. The Padres lead 1-0 in the first game of the National League Division Series. Vaughn has had 2 hits in 3 at-bats, both singles. The slider inside, and it is 2-0.
And John, you mentioned he hit his 50 home runs this year. He hit his 50th home run on his last at-bat of the season.
Sunday night.
The regular season.
In Phoenix.
And he said that he'd been trying for 3 weeks. And he finally hit it on his last at-bat of the season.
Well, and several of his teammates commented that they were glad he did it because he really, they thought, was struggling to do it. That ball is belted high and deep, and Alou is back looking up. This one is gone. And now he has done it in the division series. 2-0 San Diego. So the 50 home run man has gone deep, and that's what they were hoping for. They thought he had gotten out of his game trying so hard to hit that 50th. And they were hopeful that he would get back into his normal swing. Well, look at this. He's got 3 hits in the game against Randy Johnson, and he's given it to Sammy Sosa. And that's a strike to Ken Caminetti.
Well, Johnson fell behind 2-0, and Greg Vaughn is a great fastball hitter.
Slider, 0-2. That is a big run the way Kevin Brown has been pitching. Now they need 2 for the Astros just to stay alive. Strike 3 call over the outside. Number 9 for Johnson.
Well, it's a 2-0 fastball. Well, maybe that wasn't a fastball. It was a little slider, but it wasn't a slider. It looked like it hung there. It was a kind of a flat slider, and Vaughn just hit it out. Alou knew he didn't have a chance, and it's out of here.
Jim Leyritz, ball 1. What, you don't think Randy Johnson can hang a slider?
No, that ball looks like it just flattened out. It looked like it had slider spin, but it was more a backup slider.
Backup slider, all right. And that is out number 2. As Spires throws out Leyritz. Leyritz now 1 for 3. He drove in the first run with a long fly ball. So the crowd at the Astrodome is stunned, very tense. Randy Johnson has won every time he's pitched here at the Astrodome this year. That's what they're used to seeing.
But he wasn't matched up against Kevin Brown on those occasions. I mean, he's pitched well enough to be ahead in this ball game. Kevin Brown has just pitched much better. You know, John, one thing that's going to happen tonight, one of these managers is going to get their first playoff victory.
Steve Finley hit it hard, but right to Biggio. That is the end.
Both of them are 0-6.
San Diego. We go to the last of the 8th. ESPN's coverage of the National League Division Series is brought to you by Levi's Hard Jeans, denim's dark side. 2-0, the Padres lead back of Kevin Brown, last of the 8th inning. Tony Gwynn out of the ball game, and our Chris Myers, who's here covering for Baseball Tonight and SportsCenter, talked to Tony Gwynn. Let's go to Chris Myers.
John, Tony Gwynn said on the double that he later scored on in the 6th inning, the Achilles muscle on his left side, which had been bothering him for the last few months, bothered him even more. And you could see him in pain when he got to third base. And then after he scored the run, manager Bruce Bochy asked him how he felt. He said it hurts a little. Bochy took him out of the game, and Ruben Rivera took the outfield in the bottom half of the 6th inning. When I talked to Tony Gwynn moments ago, he didn't seem too happy about being out of the game. I asked him if he'd be back in Game 2 on Thursday. The 8-time batting champion said, no question about it. John, back to you.
All right, Chris Myers with the on-the-spot report, talking with Tony Gwynn.
The Chris Myers?
That's him, up close.
Yeah.
Wally joined Allen at first base, and Gutierrez loses the bat. He heads right into the far corner of the San Diego dugout, where there were several guys who were just sitting, enjoying the ball game. Mike Cubbage, the third base coach for Houston, picks it up.
Well, this bat just flies out of his hands. It tells you he's got a pretty loose grip. You want to grip it lightly, but man, hold on to it a little tighter than that next time.
13 strikeouts for Kevin Brown. This is the first time in his career he's ever had 13 strikeouts. It's up and away. 1 ball, 2 strikes. He had had 11 strikeouts 3 different times, including last September the 10th, just 19 days ago against the Dodgers. Make it 14. And that's the most ever in Major League history in the 3 years of the division series. Randy Johnson had the American League record with 13 strikeouts against Baltimore in one of those games last year.
Well, this is just an overpowering fastball. He starts off the plate outside and runs back over the outside corner. And that's that sinker that he can turn back over the outside part of the plate.
Brad Ausmus is 2 for 2. He has the only hits against Kevin Brown, and it is 0-1. Brown has only 1 walk. He's hit a batter and given up the 2 singles to Ausmus. Foul off the right field line. Dave Clark has come out on deck with Randy Johnson, the pitcher, due up next.
Yeah, I had Randy coming out last inning, a half inning ahead of time on my scorecard.
You didn't have to admit that. Nobody can see your scorecard.
Yeah, that's okay.
I wouldn't have told.
Oh, that's all right. I'm like an umpire. Let's get it right.
That's out of play. Kevin Brown. This is exactly why Atlanta wanted to make sure they got to play the wild card team. They did not want to have to face Kevin Brown.
Well, that may be true, but it's also true that they earned that right.
And that slider.
Hey, you earned the right to miss some of these tough pitchers like this in that first round.
Well, they would have earned it, but if the Mets had been the wild card, they still would have had to play San Diego.
And that's still not fair.
All right, I agree. 1-2. Dropped down that time, dropped it in the dirt. 2-2 the count.
One of the things that makes Kevin so tough on right-handed hitters is, I mean, he kind of turns his back on you, and then he kind of hides the ball, and then as hard as he's throwing tonight, it's very difficult to pick it up quick enough.
2-2 the count to Ausmus. Struck him out. That's 4 in a row and 15 for the game. Now this is turning into one for the ages.
Well, Randy Johnson started off, he'd look like in the first inning that he may have 15 at this time, but he slowed up. Kevin Brown, look at that little slider right on the outside corner. I mean, this is like almost a perfect pitch. See how he hides the ball? There's that little slider. It probably didn't look like a little slider at the plate, but a little slider from up here. Or as Gary Matthews might say, a little slide piece right on the outside edge.
Gary Matthews Matthews, the hitting coach for the Toronto Blue Jays this year.
Yeah.
Must have coached Sean Green and Carlos Delgado and Jose Canseco pretty well.
You're right, especially the young fellas, you know, Green and Delgado. I think Canseco was already in his own mode anyway.
Well, Jose, been a while since he hit 46 home runs.
Yeah, like never. That's the most he ever hit, I think.
Dave Clark. It's foul on the third base side.
He had 40, I guess, the year he had the 40-40 club. He had 41.
And 42.
42. That's...
You were close, though.
That's been a while.
1988.
10 years.
Doesn't seem like 10.
No, it doesn't.
1 ball, 1 strike. That was the 110th pitch thrown by Kevin Brown in this game. 15 strikeouts, 1 walk. I mean, we use that phrase, Joe. He can be unhittable. Well, today's the day.
Well, if they would have left Osmus out of the game, he may have a no-hitter right now.
Man.
Osmus has both of the base hits for the Astros.
Now, when I say that the Braves didn't want to have to face Kevin Brown, I mean, they might have to face him in the next round.
Yeah.
But if this series goes the limit, Bruce Bochy won't have his rotation all nicely set up in a row with Brown to go in the first game. So that changes things right away in the dirt. And it's a full count now, 3-2. The other thing is, I don't think the Braves are afraid of playing anybody.
No, that was going to be my statement.
I mean, when you go in with John Smoltz,
right,
and Tom Glavine, and Greg Maddux is your third pitcher in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, you're set up pretty nicely.
Actually, you could just throw them in a hat and pick them in any order you want. You still have a 1, 2, 3 count combination.
It's a walk. So Clark gets on base. Second walk allowed by Brown. Excuse me, Joe, for just a second.
Okay.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. All right, Joe, go ahead.
All right, I'm finished. I just wanted to hear that.
You like that Office of the Commissioner of Baseball?
Right.
Greg Biggio, and he's got some power. 20 home runs, 51 doubles. And that's foul.
Again, he has kept that sinker in on Biggio's hands. He has not been able to do much with it. He hit him last time trying to get inside with that sinker.
Two to nothing, San Diego, last of the 8th. The Astros last year was swept by the Braves in the division series, 3-0, and managed only 5 runs in the 3 games total. 0-2.
See what he did? He ran the fastball in, which got him conscious inside, and then he throws the straight fastball away. I mean, that's just hard to hit. One's coming at you and one's moving away. That's what a pitcher tries to do to keep you off balance.
There's Trevor Hoffman, who had the incredible year as the closer, 53 saves in 54 chances. The Padres have not lost a game that they led after 8 innings in more than 2 years. It was July of 1996 when last they blew a lead after the 8th inning. And that was in this ballpark, July 24th, 1996. They have won 174 consecutive games that they were leading after 8 innings. That is an all-time Major League record in this century. 1-2 to Biggio. Struck him out in the dirt. And makes him throw to Joyner. 16 strikeouts for Kevin Brown. In the 8th inning, he has struck out the side. And the Padres are leading after 8. And now the Liberty Mutual key play of the game.
And let's take a look at Tony Gwynn's hitting here. I mean, this is some of the best hitting I've ever seen in this situation. Watch the pitch out here. He goes out and gets it and lines it the other way. The reason he can do that is because he just hits with his upper body. But the reason I say it's one of the greatest pieces of hitting I've ever seen is because Johnson had pitched him inside with the fastball so often today to keep him honest, and then throw a slider that was going to be off the plate outside, and he ripped it down the left field line. That's how you win that batting titles.
Well, and that double on that tough pitch started a rally in the 6th inning that got the Padres the first run of the game. Jay Powell now on in relief of Randy Johnson. 8 real strong innings for the big unit. 2 runs, 9 strikeouts, but he leaves trailing 2-0.
And this reminds you a little bit of last year's first game. Greg Maddux pitched well. His team didn't play as well behind him, but he pitched well enough to win. But Kevin Brown was even better.
That one a little bit low on the outside from Jay Powell, another former Florida Marlin. Both of these ball clubs benefited from the breakup of the Florida Marlins, that's for sure. Kevin Brown going from Florida to the San Diego Padres, and Moises Alou going to the Astros, each becoming key players for their new ball clubs. And we mentioned, Joe, how both Kevin Brown and Randy Johnson can be free agents at the end of the year. Going to be a lot of ball clubs out there calling their accountants and saying, how much do we have in the check account right now?
Can I buy 2 new cars? Or can I just take one of these guys?
But, you know, Moises Alou also can demand a trade. Having been traded in the middle of a multi-year contract. And there's talk that if his dad ends up managing the Los Angeles Dodgers, Felipe Alou, now with the Expos, that Moises would like to follow him out there to play for him. Carlos Hernandez is 2 for 4 now in the game, retired, and here is Chris Gomez in the 9th inning as we see Trevor Hoffman continuing to warm up in the San Diego bullpen. Some of the best Houston hitters will be coming up. You know, last year there's Hoffman in the bullpen, and John Vanderwall has come out on deck to bat apparently with Kevin Brown due up next. In that first game of the division series last year, the Astros in Atlanta, Darryl Kyle and Greg Maddux matched up in that game, and it was a 2-1 final. Very similar to this one. I mean, the big guns for the Astros just could not get any hits against Maddux that day. The only run the Astros scored in that game was driven in by Kyle himself.
You're right. Kyle pitched well enough to win in that ball game.
And then they got clobbered in the second game, came home, and were beaten by John Smoltz, and the series ended after 3. Down and away by Powell, 3-1. Vanderwall on deck. Remember, the Astros scored only 5 runs in the 3-game series last year. But I mean, this is a pretty tough league. You face Maddux, Glavine, and Smoltz, and now this year you start out against Kevin Brown. And that's what's so much fun if you're a baseball fan to watch this time of year. Ball 4 to Gomez. Tonight the Yankees will open at home against the Texas Rangers, 8 o'clock. And then tomorrow another slate of games, 3 more games tomorrow. Starting at 1 o'clock, the Red Sox and Indians will play game 2 of their series tomorrow on ESPN at Jacobs Field. Must win for Cleveland. They lost today at home. Here's Vanderwall, former Colorado Rocky, who takes ball 1. Then at 4 o'clock, game 1 for the Atlanta Braves and the Chicago Cubs. Sammy Sosa and the Cubs, who secured the wild card berth last night in that playoff, will take on the Braves, who will go with John Smoltz tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern. Then tomorrow night, the Rangers and Yankees game 2, 8 o'clock on NBC. Coverage begins tomorrow on ESPN at 12:30 with Baseball Tonight. And don't forget, after that ball game at Yankee Stadium tomorrow night, switch over to ESPN for Sports Center. And then the midnight edition of Baseball Tonight, you'll have all of the goings on in baseball capsulized for the day, as well as reports and interviews from the ballparks. And that will happen tonight as well. After the Yankee Rangers games on Fox tonight, switch over to Sports Center, and you get the live coverage from the clubhouses from Yankee Stadium. Vanderwall with a foul ball. 1 ball and 2 strikes. This week is kind of like a baseball festival, Joe. I mean, we got all the best teams lined up every day, all week. Great matchups like Brown versus Johnson today. The Yankee matchup tonight. Todd Stottlemyre for the Rangers against David Wells. That's a pretty good matchup. Juan Gonzalez, the RBI leader in the American League. Will Clark, Rusty Greer. The Rangers had 3 100 RBI men this year. And the only team that scored more runs than Texas in all of Major League Baseball was the Yankees, who won 114 games. Now the Braves, who won 106, and nobody seemed to notice. They'll host the Cubs and Sammy Sosa. The Cubs are kind of, if anybody needed a day off, they did. And they got one today. Padres are leading after 8. They have not lost a game leading after 8 for more than 2 years, largely because of that man, Trevor Hawkins. We'll be seeing him real soon. Strike 3 called to Vanderwall. 2 down. Two down, leadoff man Kilvio Veras now. Well, this has been more typical of the kind of games the Padres played all year. They played a lot of tight, low-scoring games. They did not hit all that well, but they got some excellent pitching from Kevin Brown, also Andy Ashby, although he struggled late in the year. Joey Hamilton had a good run in the second half of the season. Although Bruce Bochy said he's going to go with Sterling Hitchcock in game 3. Most likely. Slider in the dirt and past Osmus over to second. Goes Gomez.
Don, you mentioned the Padres played a lot of games like this. Well, down the stretch, they really played a lot of games where they didn't score a lot of runs. They won 98 games for the season, and they were 9-15 in September. So, I mean, they definitely should have won 100 ball games if they just kept on track of the way they were playing before September rolled around. But then they had sewed up their division, and a lot of people had a lull after they won their division, including the Astros and the Braves.
Looked like a sure thing that they would win 100. Kilvio Veras, he's 0 for 4, runner at second, and he gets hit right in the knee. Bruce Bochy quickly out. This is his leadoff man, not easily replaced. That does not look good, Joe.
No, if it got him right on the kneecap, I mean, you don't know how much damage could be done there. Take a look at it. Well, I don't know how much. Watch him. I don't know if he really tries to get out of the way either. Watch him once he strides and steps. He just stays there. It looked like he may have lost the ball, because he was looking out over the plate and the ball was inside. Watch his head. Let's see what he does here. Now watch the flight of the ball. I mean, he just looked like he lost the flight of the ball, or he stopped watching it.
Well, I'm glad to see him staying in. The way he was having a hard time putting any pressure on that leg at first looked bad. And Larry Durker is going to go to the bullpen here. Doug Henry, veteran right-hander, is coming on with Ruben Rivera, the hitter. 2 on, 2 out, 9th inning. 2-0 San Diego. Doug Henry on to face Ruben Rivera with 2 men on and 2 men out. The veteran right-hander, a fastball for a strike. He was with the San Francisco Giants last year. Moved over to Houston this season and has been a very valuable setup man in front of Billy Wagner most of the year. Gomez at second. Sheets the pinch runner now for Barrett. Barrett left the game. He went down to first base, but when they made the pitching change, he'd been walking across the diamond to the dugout and left. So Sheets is now running at first with Gomez at second. 2 out. Rivera is 0 for 1 in the game after replacing Gwynn. Slider in the dirt, smothered by Austin. The Astros will give it their best shot in the last half of the inning. Bill Spires, a left-handed hitter, due up. And then the power of Bell and Bagwell, and Lou would be due fourth if somebody can get on. Trevor Hoffman has been the best closer in the game this year. Ready in the bullpen for San Diego. A little bit low on the outside. 2-2. Tough pitch to take him. You have to have a great eye to take that one with 2 strikes.
Exactly. Or you have to realize you couldn't hit it anyway and hope the umpire would call it a ball.
Yeah, that must be it. 2-0 San Diego. 9th inning. Slider got him swinging. Trevor Hoffman is coming on. Spires, Bell, Bagwell. The Astros up against the wall. 2-0 Padres, last of the 9th. And back in 1993, Padres fans were enraged when the Padres held a fire sale, getting rid of all of their high-priced talent, including Gary Sheffield to the Florida Marlins. But now it doesn't look so bad, at least that trade, because one of the men they got in return for Sheffield is this man, Trevor Hoffman, who has become the best closer in the game. 53 saves in 54 chances this year. And he is the primary reason why it's been more than 2 years since the Padres last lost a game that they led after 8 innings.
Well, you can see the Astros fans are getting into it. They want their hometown Astros to give it one last shot.
Bill Spires leads off. Then Bell and Bagwell. He throws pretty hard, but he's got a devastating changeup. One ball and no strikes. Tough call to make if you're Bruce Bochy, I guess. I mean, the man he's replacing pitched a 2-hit shutout and had 16 strikeouts. 1-1.
Well, we saw this one other time, John. Remember, we were broadcasting a game from the Met Stadium, and Tim Belcher for the Reds gave up a base hit to the leadoff hitter, and then retired 24 straight hitters. And they took him out in the 9th, brought in Rob Dibble, and Dibble gave up a 2-run homer to Bonilla, and they lost.
Trying to bunt. He missed it, and that was the changeup. And that changeup is considerably slower than his fastball. Trevor Hoffman. He's the kid brother of Dodger manager Glenn Hoffman. Grew up in the Southern California area as an Angels fan. Spires 0 for 3 in the game. Another changeup.
A high one.
Kevin Brown struck out 5 of the last 6 batters that he faced. I mean, it's a tough act to follow if you're Trevor Hoffman. 16 strikeouts, 2 walks. But this is what Bochy's been doing all year, and it's worked beautifully. That's a fair ball. Past the bag at third and down to left field line. A double.
Well, it's a fastball in. He fights it off down the left field line, and that's all it is. He fights it off. He did not get the barrel out front. You can see Caminetti scuffling, trying to get to it.
Kevin Brown reacting as you might expect. Here is Derek Bell. And the Astrodome with everybody on their feet. High pop-up. Ruben Rivera. And then one pitch, Bell is gone. He is 0 for 4 in this game. He's never had a hit against Hoffman. But now Jeff Bagwell comes up. Again, he represents the possible tying run. And he is the Astros' big slugger. Has been ever since he got here.
From the Boston Red Sox. Well, he's 3 for 11 against Hoffman.
And against Hoffman, that passes is big numbers. Wow. That might have been a slider or a splitter. He also throws a split-fingered pitch.
That was a slider.
Bagwell was 1 for 12 against Atlanta last year in the division series. He's 0 for 3 today.
That's the splitter.
It just disappeared. 0-2.
It looks like he holds on to it like it's a changeup, but there's the rotation. That's a splitter.
Moises Alou is on deck. 2-0, the Padres lead. This time he took it. Same pitch. Hoffman, by the way, has 1 blown save this year, or had in the regular season. And that was against the Astros. Spires at second. Struck him out. The slider. The 17th strikeout of the game. The San Diego pitcher.
Well, that's what makes it so difficult to hit a guy like Hoffman. He has so many weapons to come at you with, and he has a great fastball.
Moises Alou, as we see that pitch again.
Slider on the outside part of the plate.
Really tightly spun. Alou has hit 2 homers in his career against Hoffman. There you see the numbers, including one to cause Hoffman to blow a save earlier this year. Last chance for the Astros in game 1. Ball 1. Bagwell. You wonder, Joe, I mean, the Astros have ridden on his shoulders for so many years. Was he trying a little too hard there against Hoffman?
I don't ever see Bagwell get cheated. He always takes that big cut.
Here's Alou, very patient. And it is 2-0.
Well, don't forget, Hoffman remembers what Alou did as well to cost him that save. So he's going to be extra careful with Alou.
San Diego ahead 2-0. Spires led off the inning with a double. He's at second. 2 down. Carl Everett would be next. Caminetti. And he throws it wildly. Here comes Spires. Scoring. Brilliant pickup by Caminetti. And horrible decision to even throw it.
Well, you're right. He makes a great play here. I mean, that was a bullet that he knocks down. But he gets up and he can't straighten himself. And remember, he's got shoulder problems. He's got hamstring problems. Not a lot of things he could do is he ball right over the head of the base runner. And as it goes into the dugout, coverage is going to run with him. I was a little surprised he wasn't playing closer to the line anyway, John, because, you know, Alou was the tying run. And with 2 outs. But here's the other part of this. Trevor Hoffman is very easy to steal on. And I think that's what Bochy came out to talk to him about. But see, right there he does a little slide step. They're trying to make him more aware and not give the runner at first base a chance to steal. Because normally he has that leg kick that allows you to get a good jump.
Carl Everett is 3 for 6 in his career against Hoffman. It is 2-0.
And the one thing you have to remember, if you change your motion, you know, you change a lot of things. He's shortened his stride, which is causing him to lose a little bit of his rhythm. I think you have to just say, hey, if Alou steals a base, he steals it.
3-0. Tony Eusebio has come out on deck to pinch it for Gutierrez.
Was that you or Yogi Berra that said it's never over till it's over?
Well, I wish I'd said it. Swinging away on 3-0. 3-1. Well, I guess Dirkner must have thought maybe he'll get a fat one right here.
Well, it's like you said, he's hit well against Hoffman, but
Alou running high in the air to center. Finley's waiting for it. The ball game is over. So the Astros make some noise in the 9th inning, signifying nothing as it turns out.
I mean, that was just a great performance by Kevin Brown and a fine performance by Randy Johnson. It's a shame that one of them had to lose, but Kevin Brown pitched the best, a career-high 16 strikeouts. Just a great, great performance.
Trevor Hoffman wrapping it up.
Well, after swinging 3-0, you knew he was going to swing 3-1. He gets a good pitch to hit as Alou is running, but he couldn't get around on it. Got inside on him a little bit, and Finley squeezes it for the first final out.
So the Padres, who stumbled their way to the postseason after generating a huge lead in the National League West. The combination of strong pitching and just enough offense. As it turns out, the home run by Greg Vaughn is the winner. And the double by Tony Gwynn, playing hurt, got them their first run ultimately. And Kevin Brown, the second highest strikeout total in a postseason game in history. Only Bob Gibson with 17 strikeouts in the World Series against Detroit 30 years ago ever had more. Brown wins it, and a tough save for Trevor Hoffman. And the 50 home run man, Greg Vaughn, took one out against the big unit. This series will continue on Thursday. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.